Welcome to HighLevel Techie. This is Jitin here, and today we are going to talk about a really crucial, a very important aspect of voice AI agent, and that is called custom actions. Using custom actions, you can take your voice AI agent to the next level. It can actually interact with a third-party software. It can grab data from an outside database and so on. And this is going to be a two-part session. First, we are going to talk about the post action, and then we are going to talk about the get action. So let's click on custom actions and try to understand what I mean by get action and post action. So I'm going to click here on custom action, and here you will see an endpoint URL for API details, which is called post action, or a post method and a get method. So we are going to talk about post method in this video, and in the next video we will talk about get method. So let's get started with custom action post method. So let's talk about the post method or a post action for a minute. We use a post method when we are creating something or we are pushing data to somewhere. You would publish a post on Facebook, which is like you are creating something on Facebook, right? So that means you're posting a bunch of data on somewhere. So the concept is very similar. Whenever you are pushing data or you're creating something new, you're actually doing a post method or a post call to an endpoint. So that is the simplest way for you to understand what a post method is. So whenever you're trying to push data to some other platform, you want to use a post method. And that is exactly what we are going to do on this video. We are going to post a bunch of data from here to somewhere else. So the first part of this action is pretty straightforward, which is very similar to what you saw earlier in the previous videos related to actions. So you can specify an action name, and then you can specify the trigger for that action and what to say before the action gets triggered. So here, let's call this action posting data to a webhook, right? So that is the name of our action. And now we have to specify the trigger. When should this action take place? So let's say when the user is ready to give a password, right? We are assuming that the user is going to give a password, then we want to push this data to somewhere else. So that is the idea. And now what to say before executing this action. So let's say I am sending your password. So I'm going to say I'm sending your password now. Okay, so that is what I want to say when this action is taking place. And I'm going to tell you something now, which I have mentioned in many of my trainings before, how to use this sentence, what to say before executing this action as a way to troubleshoot your agents. So for example, if you have multiple tools and if you want to check if your tool is actually running, what you can do is you can add some weird sentences in here. And then if you hear that during that call, then you would know in real time that this tool has actually run, and that would give you an idea of what is working and what is not working, right? And if you don't understand what I said now, you will soon this in action and you will understand that better. So I'm going to use I'm sending your password now as the sentence that I want to say when the tool is running. And now comes the main part, sending the post request. So there are a few things we need in order to send this post request. The main thing is that endpoint URL. We are actually dealing with API calls and webhooks here. In simpler terms, a webhook or an API call is sending a bunch of data through a URL, right? So you can use a URL to send data to somewhere else. So that is what we are trying to do here. And in order to do that, we need a URL. That is where a webhook URL comes into play. You can get a webhook URL from multiple sources. You can use GHL, you can use Zapier, you can use Public Connect, you can use N8N, or you can use whatever that has access to a webhook in here. So for this example, I'm going to use make.com, and the only reason why I'm using make.com is because it is very visual. You can actually see when a new data comes in. So that is the only reason. And then I will also show you how to use this with GHL inbound webhook as well. So let's go to make.com now and see what happens now. Alright, so I'm inside make.com, and my first step inside make.com is to create a trigger using webhooks. So all I have to do is click here on webhook, and I'm going to select a custom webhook, and then I have to click. add, give it a name, let's say GHL test webhook. I'm going to call it GHL test webhook, and I'm going to click save, and that gets added. Now, as soon as you create that webhook, you get a URL like this. You can see the URL here. So this is a URL we will use to send data, right? So now we have created this webhook to catch the data that we send from a different platform. So we are going to send or post a data from GHL voice AI custom action, and this webhook is now ready to capture that data or to catch that data. So all you have to do now is to copy this address, which is this URL. You copy that, and then you come back to our voice AI, and you paste that in here. And the only thing you need to look is that there is HTTPS and there is another HTTPS. We don't want that, so remove that bit, and then you are ready to go. We have created our endpoint URL. Now we will be able to send data to this URL, and this trigger is ready to capture any data. So if you want to test it out, you click save, and then you can click here to run this module, and you will see that this is now buffering or waiting for data to come in. And all you have to do to test it out is click, paste that in, and add a question mark at the end and say something, let's say hi or something, and then click enter, and you will see something called accepted here, which means that we have successfully sent that data. And if you go back to our webhook, and if you see here, there's a check mark, and in this, inside the bundle, you will say hi, which is what I have typed on that URL, right? So this is the easiest way for you to see how you can use a URL to send data. So I have sent my message, which is hi, through a URL, and I was able to capture that details in here, right? So that is the basic idea that we are trying to do. So now that we have this understanding, let's go back to our voice AI, and let's look at other aspects. Now you will see a header, and sometimes you might need a header to send data across, especially if you want to take care of authorization, authentication, and such. But in this case, you have already seen we don't really need any header. All you have to do is send the data. In this case, we can remove this header. So I'm going to close that out. There is no header in this. But if you want to add, you click on this plus and add your key value parameter for the header. But for now, let's remove that. And now comes the variable that we can send across to our URL. So here you can type in anything. So for example, we were talking about sending a password, right? So the name of the variable would be password here. And what to collect from the conversation, I'm going to say capture the password as uttered by the user, and this is going to be a string. But if you want to send a number or a floating number, a boolean yes or no, or a phone number or an email, you can capture that as well. But in our case, it's going to be a string or a bunch of characters, and it would look like something like hello 123, and that's going to be an example. And if you want, you can add more variables into the same webhook. You can capture more than one variable in one webhook, but we will see that later. So I'm going to close this out, and I'm going to test my webhook. Click here, and in order to test it, you need to send a sample data. In this case, we are going to send hello 123. And before we send that, we need to make sure that our webhook is ready to capture the data as well. So let's go back to make one more time, and let's run this module so that it is ready to capture data. So you can see it is waiting. It is waiting for that data. And let's go back and click initialize action. And if it is success, it will tell you that it is success. And if we go here, we will be able to see our password as hello123, right? So this is how we can send data from GHL voice AI using custom actions into a different platform. And as soon as you receive this data, you can do a lot of things. You can run it through other apps. You just need to search for other apps. If you want to save the password to Google Sheet, you select Google Sheet and map it across. A lot of things can be done here. So that is how you would use a post action in its simplest form. Now once everything is running, all you have to do is publish this. And once you publish this, this webhook will be active and it will be ready to accept any data. So now let's go and test this out on a web call. So I'm going to save this and I'm going to save my agent as well. But before I do that, I want to change something in the agent details. I'm going to ask for password straight away. Okay, so as soon as I call, this agent would ask what is the password, and then I would tell a password, and that data will go to my make.com. So now you can see things side by side. So I'm going to make a call.
Hey, what is the password?
Hey, my password is Superman.
I'm sending your password now. Your password has been successfully sent. Let me know if there's anything else I can assist you with.
Yes, I want to send another password, please.
Sure, please share the password you'd like to send.
Batman.
I am sending your password now. Your password has been successfully sent. Let me know if there's anything else.
So you could see the incoming data in real time. So this is how the post action would work in its simplest form. So now we have this understanding, we can build on this and add more things to our post action. So now let's go back to our GHL and let's go into our agent goals and let's select our action. And if you want to add more stuff, like add more variables, you can go ahead and add this in the similar way. But that is just the extension of what you have saw already. You would just keep on adding more variables and then you receive that on the other end. So now I'm going to show you how you can do the same using GHL workflow. So let's go to a workflow. Let's go back and create a new workflow. Start from scratch. And here what we are looking for is an inbound webhook trigger. So you can see here. So you select that. And as soon as you select that, you will get a long URL. This is going to be the endpoint URL that you're looking for. You click here to copy it. And once you copy that, you go back to your AI agent and paste. Instead of this, you paste that in. Again, look for HTTPS. You don't want to double that up. So you remove that and you are ready to test it out. So now we don't really need the second variable. We are going to send the password again, and now click test webhook and add a value hello123 initialize, and you can see it's a success. Now let's go back to our workflow and you click here on fetch sample request, and then you get this drop down if everything worked well. If you don't have a sample data, it wouldn't fetch anything, but now that we have already tested it, we have a sample data. Now if you click here, you get access to that sample data, and you click here, you get access to the content of that data. So if you go here, this is the payload that we sent out, hello123, the password. Now you can save this, and it would ask you to create a contact, but we can't create a contact because we don't have any email address or phone number in this value. But we can cancel that and we can do whatever else we can do with that incoming value. So that is how you would set it up using GHL workflow. And now if you want to bring in email address or phone number, all you have to do is send that across. So here you can simply say email and capture the email of the user, and then example would be John at example.com, and then you can use that email to create a contact or to find that contact and so on the platform where we are receiving this data. So that is the general idea behind creating a post action inside your voice AI actions. So there are a few things that you can do depending on the API that you get to use. So if you want to send a post request that has an authentication through header, what you can do is you can click to add a header. You click on that plus icon, and then you can add that key and value pair for that header authentication. Or if you want to authenticate in a different way, you can toggle this one on, and then you can also add an API key to add the bearer token. So as of now, these are the options that are available on the header section. You can either add an API key for the bearer token, or you can add a key value pair header. So those APIs that supports a bearer token based authentication can be used here. But if you are requiring an OAuth sort of authentication, this might not work for you. And similarly, the variable that you're sending is in a form encoded format. And you can see here that we are actually adding a form based input, not a raw JSON format. So if that API can accept form encoded input, then you can use it. But if the API, for example, if you want to update a contact in GoHighLevel, GoHighLevel expects that input data in raw JSON format, which you cannot add here. In that case, you cannot use it. But if the API that you are working with accepts a header using key value pair and a bearer token, and it also accepts the data in a form encoded format, then you can use post request in that case. Otherwise, you have to use a third-party solution like we saw earlier. In that case, you have to rely on a third-party platform like make.com or even GHL inbound webhook to send that data. And once you send that data to that third-party platform or to the workflow, then you can use the variables or the data that you're sending across. And from there, you can send a custom post request with the appropriate header and authentication and such. So that is a sort of limitation that we have right now on custom actions with post method. So that is all for you to understand on how to send post request from voice AI agent. And now we are going to talk about get method in the next lesson. So I will see you there soon. Thank you and bye.